Surprise, Romano. Doesn't have quite the same sting as Dokes' old colloquialisms, but it is still pretty effective. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Episode 7 of Dexter Resurrection is here. It is called Course Corrections, and we pick up right at the end of the last episode where we learned the Gemini Killer as a twin. Let's just say I love this episode because we get to see Michael C. Hall go through all the ranges of Dexter. The super serious, like I'm going to kill you, the everything you can think about from Dexter, being overly emotive, being his facade, all of it sort of comes together in this one episode. You get to see the full gamut, and it is glorious to see. We even get a hint of Dexter doing his splatter analysis once more. It's a fun sort of ride to just see Michael C. Hall chewing up and enjoying how much fun it is to be Dexter once again. So we pick up, Leon is taking the remaining killer cabal to a castle to sort of celebrate and memorialize Mia's passing. Apparently, this castle is the castle that Leon took Mia to when it was her first year being a part of this killer camp group, if you will. Charlie is a little unconcerned with like the fact that this castle is way out in the open, considering who they're with and how everything is sort of going down, losing Lowell, losing Mia, all this stuff. It doesn't just seem like the perfect time to sort of be out in the open and just be one with nature. We should probably be hiding a little bit more secure. And she's kind of like, I don't know if I can kind of do this. And Leon's like, do what I'm telling you to do what I've paid you to do. Kind of like the newspaper on the dog, like do what you're supposed to be doing here. Continuously sort of putting Charlie in her place. Charlie is very matter of fact, and we've seen pieces of this throughout the season where Charlie does have sort of a sweet spot with her mom, but clearly on the salary that she makes as a teacher, not enough. So she's going to willing to do all the dirty work that Leon should ask her to do. And she's going to have to sort of take the mess that comes along with it. So Leon informs the group that Mia has taken her own life, which we all know is a load of crap. Dex does too, but he kind of has to play the game. Back with Harrison learns that Elsa is still having problems with her landlord, which we know the way that they keep putting it in promo and putting it in here, he's eventually going to lapse on his his urges and kill that landlord for Elsa. It's going to be handled eventually. But it's at this time that Elsa lets him know that, hey, I've been working on things with my dad, and it's better. And I think he's actually trying to and help, and he's the one who sort of pushed me to make an adjustment and plan for my future. And I think I want to go back to college. And Elsa, as opposed to her kind of crapping on him earlier in the season with the SAT, kind of gives him the say, "Oh yeah, no, you should do it." He wants to go to school for criminology, and so she sort of points him towards the school to go for, which is, I guess, a great school for all of that. Back at the castle with the cabal, Leon has a spread of food out for the folks, spread of meats, and then he has a veggie section for Red / Dexter. Dexter takes it at this point in time like, hey, look, I used to be a vegetarian. I mean, I used to be a meat eater back in the day. This whole spread is reminding me of the time when I wasn't. Do you mind if I indulge? And Leon's like, no, go for it. So Dex kind of gets to go back to getting the meat and enjoy what it is that he truly wants to eat, as opposed to having to always eat the veggies like Red would. Harrison sends Dex a text saying like, hey, there's this college tour that I want to go to. Can you come and join me and go with it? And Dex like, yeah, gives him a thumb up. While doing that, Leon looks at Dex and sort of sees that Red is being a little preoccupied, kind of asks him about it. And then he's like, well, look, I know I asked you to share later with the group, but do you think you could do it? Are you ready to do it today? Can you share and do your show and tell? That he's asked him to do this sort of, let me know how you operate and how you do things. And she's like, well, Al is already going to sort of put his show and tell on. Can you do it afterwards? And Red's like, sure, I brought my stuff. I can go ahead and do this. Al's show and tell is up first. He is known as Rapunzel, the ponytail killer. And oh my, it's a lot. It is a lot to go through. He records his target. He uses a GoPro cam on his helmet while he's riding bikes, and he records his target. He meets his target, sets up what he's going to do, and then he kills her on camera. And you can see that Gareth 2.0 and Al are sort of getting aroused. So is Leon. Dex is feigning, but it's like I'm actually have to sit here and watch somebody kill somebody who didn't deserve to be killed on camera, and I have to kind of just sit in it because this is what this group does. Um, at that point, he immediately knows, like, I got to sever all ties with this group. These people are crazy. Like, I need to remove myself from this killer cabal and and do it with haste. But first, I got to put on this performance. So it's a cool little shot. You get to see him sort of going through the motions of how he's going to put on this affectation, how he's going to present to Leon in the group, what he wants to do, and then all of a sudden he just says, "Nope, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the true essence of myself. I'm going to be me." Before he goes to make his performance, though, Harry does pop up, and it's interesting that this came up. Harry pops up and says, "Hey, look, you don't need to put on this story time for them. You're better than them. You don't have to dig down and go down to their level to be a part of them. You're better. Like, we set up a code, we set up a thing for you to be better than this. We work hard to make you something else, Dex, and you're not like them." And Dex is like, "Well, you killed yourself because when you finally saw me at my doing my work, you couldn't take it." It's the first time that we sort of get a remembrance of what Harry did, because this this season we've kind of just said Harry's been the good sort of shoulder person for Dex, but remember that Harry did take his life when he finally got to see Dex in his true form, and so um, Dex in his brain sort of has that back and forth with Harry. It's good to sort of still remember that negative reaction to Harry can happen from time to time, because Harry, as much as he says, "I gave you the code and I believed in you," he didn't. Uh, and it's going to be interesting for those of us who are watching Original Sin to see when that show gets to that point when Harry just can't take what it is that Dex is, even though he always says that he can. So then Dex puts on his performance as Red. It's less prepared than what he was, but he's basically performing it as himself using the name of Red. And he's essentially saying, my Red Schmidt is that's the facade. That's the face that I put on for my dark passenger. My dark passenger is the one that I walk through. I eat, sleep, shit, breathe. Dark passenger. Schmidt is the happy person that I put on top to sort of mask that. Um, and he goes on and on and on. He basically says that for that brief moment when he's the dark passenger and he gets to kill, there's a moment of sadness because he knows he has to go back to putting the Red Schmidt mask back on. And Al and Gareth 2.0 are kind of moved by it, but it's not the typical showcase that they would go through. But Leon and Charlie both clearly are affected by this. Leon more so, as we learn soon enough. Back at the precinct with Wallace and Olivia, Angel is trying to get them on the side to understand, like, hey, look, I need you to follow your gut. Like, stop going with everything that's like by the books. This doesn't make sense. Like, we were about to take this photo to Mia, and all of a sudden she ends up dead. That doesn't seem right. That doesn't make sense. You got to follow your gut. And Olivia lets Angel know, like, Wallace is a facts girl. Like, she is going by the facts. Everything's pretty much down the line for her. And Olivia brings up, like, do you really think and you want us to believe that Dexter stuck into that prison, killed Mia, and then snuck out of that prison? And that's all done by Dexter. And Angel's like, okay, some of that, sure, that doesn't make sense. We have to sort of figure in the gaps, but he's responsible. He's like a dog on a bone. Like, this is the person. He's the one who did this. Angel then says, hey, the method in which Ryan was killed is different than the method that Lady Vengeance used towards any of her other victims. And Detective Wallace is like, well, there's variations in all of them. So some were escalated, some were different, some weren't. So like that part we can't really go off of because it wasn't like one uniformed way throughout all of her killings. If there were, what you're saying is true. What is an issue is that Mia's fingerprints were on all the relics that were found at her prize, all her trophies, except for one. And Angel's like, the watch. Like, yeah, fingerprints aren't on the watch. So something there is not adding up. At that point, Angel's like, well, cool. Can I see the records to the DMV? And he does, because Boy, oh boy. While at a lunch with Gareth 2.0, Al, and Dex, Gareth 2.0 sort of mentions flippantly that, hey, it's just weird that all of a sudden this year everything seems to be going off the rails. And Dex is like, okay, I don't know if he knows, but he's starting to sort of fish and put this blame on me, saying that all of this is occurring because I'm here. Because he asks, it's like, what's different this year? He knows what's different. He's sort of his way of sticking it to Dex without really bringing up Dex's name. But before he can go into depth with that, Dex gets sort of saved by the bell because Charlie calls Dex over on the behalf of Leon. And Leon goes into a great deal in depth about his sort of origin story and how he got to be the person who likes to collect these mementos. He lets in that like Dex's Reds for him story and showcase moved him in a way that no other showcase has ever moved him before. It was vulnerable and real, something that he never has felt from any other person that he's brought to these luncheons, these dinners, these camps. Prater opens up about how the when he was a kid and his parents died, he was sort of formed in the metal box. Dex parallels himself. It's like he was formed in the metal box with his parents dead in front of him, like he was formed in sort of a shipping container in a metal box while his mom was dead, killed in front of him. Leon then says that he moved to reach out to the person who killed his parents, and his name was Cooper Morris. And he basically was a drunkard who got into an argument with his significant other and went out to just to run into something. Like he wanted to take his aggression out on whatever he could hit. And he's like, so I purposely hit your parents. And then he goes on to find out that he's done this before. Cooper is a serial killer, at which point Leon said he connected more to Cooper in this than he did his parents, and that he then befriended Cooper and started going to him more often, wrote back and forth with him, started going to visit him more until the point where Cooper died. And then when Cooper died, he started doing that with other prisoners in the system. And so this sort of fed his appetite of getting to sort of understand how serial killers tick and click and what makes them do the things that they do. Dex asked him straight up, like, do you think that Cooper was manipulating you? Like you were a child that this tragic thing happened to, and he was sort of feeding off of you. And it's like, no, he wasn't, because I was in control. I was in power. I was having him give me that information because I told myself that I would never be that scared boy that was in the back of that patrol car anymore. Now I have the information as to why all of you operate in the manner that you do. Leon is connecting to Dexter, Red, because all the other folks he knows are there for his money. It's like every one of them, if the money stopped, they would leave. They're here specifically for the money. You, I feel it's different. You, I feel like there's something more. There's a different type of connection to you. You're not like the rest of them. It's at that point then he's like, look, I'm going to share with you the very first memento that I ever got, and it's Cooper's letter that he wrote back to Leon after Leon wrote to him. And it's like, I'm sharing this with you now because I feel a type of connection with you, kindred spirit, if you will. He's like, this letter is what unlocked something in me and sort of set me down this path, and I want to share that with you. He said that Dex's speech helped unlock and make him realize that there are still things on this journey that he's been on that he still wants to learn and appreciate. Then we go and we follow Angel, who goes up to Blessing's home. He finds out through the DMV records where Dexter is living, and he gets in touch with Blessings and sort of befriends him, and gets caught up on how Harrison has been there and has resumed his relationship with Dexter. And so Angel's like, you can see the wheels start turning in his head. Back at the castle compound, Dex feels that, hey, if honesty worked for Leon, if it got that ball rolling, oh boy, Dex thinks that, let me try some honesty on Gareth 2.0. And so, boy, he goes guns blazing to Gareth 2.0. It is fascinating to see how this all works and how Dexter's always sort of a step ahead and always sort of making things go the way that he needs to. But he goes up to him and says, hey, look, I know you're a twin. And Gareth initially denies it, but he's like, nope, I've been following you. And I'm a fan. I'm a fan of you and your brother. And I get it. Some of the hubris he's not as cocky as Gareth 1.0, but he still has a little bit of that in him. And it's used against him here. But Dex was saying, I always wondered how you were able to do all of those killings of two people at the same time. And then Gemini Killer knows that, okay, you kind of do know what you're talking about. You do know that there's two of us. Because Dex says, like, because you are so frail and small, there's no way that you could do these killings by yourself. And then he's like, well, what if Praetor knew that there were two of you? And Gareth's like, no, don't. Gareth 2.0 is like, no, don't tell. And Dex like, no, don't worry. I'm not going to say anything. And then Dex sort of starts becoming a little closer to him and befriending him and trying to basically get his guard down and say that there's a connection between them. But Dex says, I wish that I had someone to do this with in tandem like you do. Like I had a brother once. We were close, and I thought there was a chance that we could do this together. We both thought the same. We both had sort of the same ideals, but it just didn't work out. And Gareth 2.0 was kind of like, why? And he said, well, we met each other in our 30s. And so there's a lot of trauma and history that existed before that, that we all sort of had our own path and built our skill set around that we just couldn't work together. Just too much time apart occurred. And then Dex like, well, I have a question. How have you been able to do this for so long? And Gareth is like, well, we have a couple of rules. One, we can never be seen at the same place together. And two, we live each other like notes so that we are always aware of where the other is and where the other is going. And Dex like, cool, like notes that you leave in a book. And I'm like, oh wait, he is straight up revealing how he got here. And he's like, Gareth 2.0, you can immediately see gets on the defense. Like, wait, what are you talking about? Dex mentions the bookstore. And then he's kind of like, look, no, real quick, don't worry. That's how big of a fan he is. And then he just goes hard in the paint because he's like, well, is it true what they say about twins? Like, can you guys feel each other's pain? And Gareth, before he can even really answer, like, nah, that's not true. Because like around 8 o'clock last night, did you feel like a sharp pain in your chest, or like did you get really hot and have hot flashes when I burned and stabbed your brother through the chest and burned his body in a furnace? And like, whoa, this escalated fast. Now it's funny that he does this now. I think Dex is doing it for two reasons. One, he knows that Gareth 2.0 can't go to Leon in this very moment to say that he has a brother because this cash flow is going to end. So it's going to take him a minute before he does that. Also, if anything comes up right now, Leon feels so highly about Red that he's who he's going to side with is going to be very interesting. But Dex ups the ante even more. And he kind of just like is digging into Gemini Killer, digging into him to the point where Gemini Killer breaks a glass and attacks Dex. To the point where Dex gets the attention of Charlie, Al, and Leon. And before they can even head over there, Dex turns the glass on him and stabs him in the neck, killing him. Now, he is trying to say, before they arrive, he's trying to say, he killed my brother, but Dex makes sure, let me take that vocal cord out of there and make sure that you stay dead and that nobody hears you. They come over, they're like, what happens? Like, he attacked. He said that he was, that he has a twin. He goes on and basically put the Lowell murder on him. And he says, like, he was trying to attack Mia, Al, and I. He's trying to take us all out to say that he was the greatest killer of all, that there should be no others around him, and he and his brother can take all the money. At that point, Charlie kind of calls BS a little bit. Charlie's like, hold on, his MO was to kill in pairs of twos. This doesn't add up. And Dex/Red is kind of like, well, you see, he tried to attack me, he cut me up. Like, what are you talking about? Leon's like, yeah, no, I've done so much for him, and I've bigged his head up so much that I can see this sort of being the response. And he tells Charlie to get him cleaned up, and Al's kind of like, I'm done. Like, what is happening right now? This is all a mess. So in this, Dex has managed to kill three birds with one stone, both the Gemini twins, and put Lowell's murder on them. And so they all kind of are wiped out. And the Mia part is handled from them. So all he has to worry about is Al. Like, and that's not that big of a deal. Like, if one person will fall on him, the rest fell on everybody else. So he's in happy spirits right now. Charlie patches up Dex, and because she's a teacher / she's had some medical stuff, she knows that, like, hey, if this went a little bit left, you'd be dead. Like, you'd be bled out. I know this, and I can perform this. So she's basically threatening and helping Dex at the same time because she just does not trust this version of Red. Because of all of this is happening, Dex can't make it to the school tour in time. He's running behind. He's looks like he's sort of standing up Harrison, but Harrison's there ready to go on the tour, and he meets a young lady named Gigi, who is a sophomore at the school, and they instantly have a connection. Like, it's pretty good. Um, but she is also the person that is sort of taking them on this tour. So she takes them around. The tour is happening. Dex eventually lands. They come back over to the mainland, the killer camp. Come back over to the mainland, and before he breaks off to go meet up with Harrison, Leon does ask him, like, "Hey, before we leave, there is one last dinner that we all like to sort of have. Would you still be coming, despite everything that's kind of sort of going on?" And Red slash Dex is like, "Yeah, I'll be there." So then he makes his way over to try to get to Harrison. When the tour concludes, they're going to go watch a lecture, and the lecture, when Harrison goes in, is performed by none other than Detective Wallace. They sort of make eye contact, and he's like, "Well, I can't." He tried to leave, but he couldn't because there are classmates right behind him that wouldn't let him go through the door. So he then just takes a seat. Um, Dex eventually shows up, and he comes to the auditorium as well. He takes a pause and looks at Detective Wallace. She looks at him now. She knows who he is, and he knows her, but he doesn't know that she knows him. He is aware of her because he was in the closet earlier in the season when he saw who the detective was, saw that she was good. So then he sits down next to Harrison and is like, did you know this? Like, nope, did not know. Did not know. And so they kind of just sit there while she goes on her lecture. Her lecture originally sounds like she's about to sort of unearth and talk about the case that she's in right now with Harrison. Harrison starts like sweating bullets and freaking out. But she's actually talking about the case that got away, the New York Ripper. Going on about it, going on about it. It's funny. This is a grisly lecture. It's basically like, hey, if you're not into this, you about to get out right now. So you see a couple of students take off when she starts showing all the victims with their intestines all over the place. But it's funny. She mentions the New York Ripper's weapon of choice was a crowbar, which Dex already knows that it's not because that totem is in Prater's Hall of Horrors, if you will. But the lecture's over; it ends, but there's a part in that lecture where Detective Wallace says that sociopaths and serial killers don't have emotions. They can't. They're not able to love. They're not capable of loving. And Dex has to say, like, real quick, Harrison. Once everybody leaves, he talks to Harrison, like, real quick, Harrison. What she's saying may be accurate. I cannot love like a traditional person, but the way that I feel about you is different than I have felt about anybody else that has ever existed in my life. You have a very special place to me. And Harrison's like, I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot. And then he tries to do like the dad, like pound on the leg thing, and you can see Harrison sort of smiles at, which is so cute. That Dexter, he is trying so hard, and Harrison's kind of like, "You're funny. You're corny, Dad, but you're funny, and I get it. I appreciate you." As they're leaving out of the lecture hall, Detective Wallace stops the two of them. He's like, "Mr. Morgan," and then she says that to both. Harrison mentions that he wants to become a cop, to which Dex is kind of surprised. And then Detective Wallace hits him with like, "Oh, you want to be just like your dad?" And Dex is like, "In what way? Because I don't know where you're taking this. Like, you need to, you're on thin ice. What are you talking about?" And she says, "Oh, Angel visited me." And they both are kind of like, "Okay, Angel, cool. He's still in New York, didn't leave. Copy that." So at that point, that Dex tries to sort of disparage Angel's name. He's like, "Yeah, he hasn't dealt well with all the deaths that have occurred in his life between Sergeant Dokes and his wife. He's just not well, and he's sort of just doing whatever he can to sort of lash out." And then he sort of gets into his forensics bag a little bit, which is something we haven't seen Dex do in years. There's the one of the slides in her lecture had the blood spatter of the New York Ripper and how she kept saying a crowbar. He's like, "No, now some of this is cheating because he actually knows the weapon, but he's like, no, the splatter is different. It wouldn't be a crowbar; it would be something that is long with a point on the end of it." It talks about the blood spatter, kind of gleefully. The only way that Dexter gleefully talks about splatter, and you can see Detective Wallace is kind of like, "Oh, okay, this is kind of your element." Got it. But you can see that sort of joy because he hasn't done that. He hasn't got to do that piece of his life in ages. So they leave, and Dex kind of asks Harrison, like, "Well, Aunt Deb and your pops, your grandfather Harry would be quite proud of you. Like, you're going to be a long line of Morgan cops like them." He's like, "No, I'm not doing this because of them. I'm doing this because it's you. This is all you. Like, you are the one that sort of pushed me towards this. And Dex's like, all right, cool. And then Gigi shows up again, and you can sort of see that there's this awkward moment where Dex doesn't pick up on clues. He's like, oh, I should give you two time because I need to go away. My bad. And so Harrison sort of gives him the clue, and he goes off to the gift shop to go buy some stuff. He eventually gets Gigi's number, and then he meets Dex in the car. And Harrison's like, do we need to concern ourselves with Angel? Like, he's still here. Like, should we do anything? And Dex really underestimates Angel's resolve. He's like, nah, he's going to keep bumping his head. The Ryan case is solved by the Mia stuff. Mia's dead. He's going to keep bumping into his head. He's going to go back to Miami and get a Cubana and call it a day. Harrison's like, cool, say less. So then he drops Harrison off, and he goes back home, and he's preparing to put the blood slide the blood that he picked up from the other half of the Gemini killer with the other half. So he's basically making one slide with both of their blood on there, and that's the Gemini killer as a whole slide. And then he starts hearing some great Cubano music from upstairs. It reminds him very much of Miami. And then he hears Angel's voice, and he's like, Batista. So then he goes upstairs and sees Angel. And Angel does his surprise, Romano. It's the closest you're going to get to his version. Surprise, mother. And Dex is trying to play it cool. He hugs him. Angel doesn't really reciprocate the hug. But Angel hugs him and kind of says, like, Dex, always having a way of ingratiating himself into family and people in the community. He has a very good knack of that. Dex is like, hey, it's getting late here. Let's give this family some time to do their thing. How about I drop you off at it to wherever it is that you need to be dropped off at? And he's like, cool. And so they drive off in a very uncomfortable car to the point where Dex is like, hey, look, I'm going to need you to back off my family, back away from me, and especially back away from Harrison. Like, enough's enough. Calm down. And he's like, good and damn well that I'm not backing down. Like, that's not happening. There's no way that I can let you get away with what you did to Maria, to Dokes, to Deb, which is interesting and funny. He doesn't know this, but we as an audience know that those 3 deaths that he's talking about, the ones that greatly affect him and have a pain point with him, Dex is not responsible for any of those deaths. Like, he didn't do. Now, in the orbit of Dexter, yes, they do have an effect. He is responsible for. He didn't actually kill any of those 3, which I don't know how that information gets to Angel or how he can sort of get him to believe that. But I also don't think it matters at this point. He's got it in his head that this person is responsible for all of this. So at that point, it's moot. So Dex then says, and you could see him switch on a dime. He goes from being the cordial Dex to like, I am the serial killer Dex. And he says, if I am half the person that you say that I am, do you really think that it's a good idea to keep coming after me? Like, do you really want to get into this? Like, this possibly can end well for you. And then Angel just says, I'll take my chances. And at that point, Dex is like, this is your spot. Time to get out the car. And before he gets out, Angel drops essentially like one of these, an AirPod case, into his driver's side like door, like the little pockets that she's kind of have in those doors, and heads out. And so he pulls off, and then Angel pulls out his phone and is tracking him off of the signal off of his AirPods. And that's how the episode ends. It's a smart way for Angel to put, quote unquote, a tracker on Dex without having to have a warrant, because you were invited into his car as a passenger, you left something behind, so a warrant isn't really necessary. It's like, oh no, I just left that. Now, as I've been thinking about this episode, there's probably about a 48 hour window that those will still work, because if you're tracking it, you are draining the battery on it, so eventually that battery is going to run out. But for now, at least for the next 48 hours, Angel has sort of a heads up as to where Dex is going to go. And that's the episode. Fun episode. Dex manages to always stay a step ahead, but still somehow the walls keep closing in. And this is just how good of a season this is, in that he's managed to wipe out the majority of that kill cabal, but the life of Harrison is about to, this is going to collide, and something's going to get messed up. Somebody's going to take the fall for this. And I feel like, as much of a father that he's trying to be, I don't think he's going to go down for the stuff that Angel's saying he's going to go down for, but I think he's going to take, Dexter is going to take the rap for whatever Harrison is in, so that Harrison can go through criminology and go basically live a normal life. Now, where this all gets messed up, and this is why they keep showing us this, Harrison's going to kill that that landlord. Don't know how, don't know when, but it's going to happen. And I would hate for Dexter to do all of this, take all of this stuff on himself, and then Harrison get caught up again while he's in jail, and there's nothing that Harrison can do about it. That's where that would get messy. But great episode. What did you guys think about this 7th episode called Course Correction? Leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on X at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.